Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Laws of Community. Today is a little different. If you can see, we are both on the same screen. We've been having a little bit of technical difficulties. Couldn't really get all the sound to work right, so we decided to just sit on the same screen with you guys today. We appreciate you all who end up coming and viewing us today live. As you know, this week is our Homeless to Home free segment, which is obviously one that is very dear to me, as I've mentioned in the past, because of all of my experiences with homelessness. I just this week decided to talk more about my story and about what we're doing and where we're going towards our successes. So thank you to who's viewing. I see there's one viewer already. Thank you. And so what I'm going to start off saying is homeless to home free. You know, there to me, it really is something that a lot of people don't think about the homeless. You know, when they see the homeless, they don't. A lot of times they don't see that there's going to be change in their future. A lot of times people are like, oh, they're just deadbeat. They're going to waste their lives away and stuff like that, and say a bunch of negative, derogatory things. And I personally, I've met thousands and thousands of people while I've been traveling, and I've met people while I've been traveling. When I was 18, 19 years old, I was told by so many people that were working their lives, away. They were working their daily jobs and everything, and they were telling me that I really think what you're doing is awesome, because I personally couldn't find the courage to do that. I find you to be brave doing what you're doing, because I personally am too scared to walk away from my 9 to 5 job and go and travel and see the world, because that's what I did. I wasn't just homeless in one town, one city. I went traveling.
You want to tell like the linear story?
So yeah, so when I was 18, right out of high school, a month later I ended up homeless, and it was because I was throughout my whole senior year I was hanging out with a bunch of homeless kids. I met a bunch of, and I apologize, guys. There's a train in the background. I know you can hear it. If our engineer can hear it, I know you guys can hear it. So I apologize, but I'm sure I'm loud enough you can hear me too. So hopefully, but anyways, I really, I just I want to say that, for one, the way that I was on the street is not like how a lot of people were on the street. A lot of people were on the street for a lot of different reasons. My reasons are a little more ridiculous. I was just I wanted to be a little bit, and that's weird. That's kind of weird to think, because a lot of people on the streets, even when I was homeless, like, a lot of people gave me crap for it, because I just, they'd ask me, why are you out here? Like, I'm out here because I was kicked out of my house as a teenager, and now I've been out here for the last 10 years, or whatever it is, and I kind of got kicked out, but I also had a choice to go back. That was on me. And I really, I really gotta say, I dedicate all of the great experiences I did have, and all the cool things I've learned, and everything I've learned, really, from the few people that I spent time with in the first year of me being on the streets. And I met some really great people, and how it really started was in 2013. I was going to an all age club in downtown Portland, and I ended up meeting a couple people, a couple people that are now, one person's now a lifelong friend of mine, and I consider her a sister. I always tell her, she definitely is a lemon tree, and she goes by Lemon, so she's definitely a lemon tree. She planted that seed in me that first night, made sure that I was okay, and protected me She actually, I found out a few years later, she was actually a couple years younger than me. And like she made sure I was safe, because people that were there when I first was spending the night on the streets, tried to scare me, tried to punk me, and basically made me fear for my life for a moment. And she made sure that I didn't lose my life. She made sure that I was safe, and that I was good. She made sure that the people that I was around for the time that I spent hanging out with her, and the other people she was around, she made sure I was good. She made sure I was always safe. She made sure that I was comfortable, and the people around me knew that I was, not really used to that life, and that I was new to it. And so people really took care, because of how she presented it, and I'm grateful for that. And I've told her this several times. So Lemon, if you ever see this, thank you. And same with you, my buddy Tony. I mean, Tony, if you see this, thank you, because you were there that night too, the first night that I was out there on the streets. I mean, you and I are good friends to this day. And this is something, I'm kind of going on a tangent with you guys for a moment, because to me, you build these bonds, you create these things. A lot of people on the streets, like, you don't realize the community that is really there within a lot of these like homeless communities, like the community that's really there. It's not, a lot of it's not drugs and all the crazy things that you see. A lot of it is really like family home time stuff. People consider each other brother and sister, or their street moms and street kids. The homeless youth that end up on the streets, they get basically adopted by street parents, people that are older than them, or at least maybe they might be around their age but have been on the streets for a while. Excuse me, for years, and are experienced with how things are on the streets. And make sure that these people, anytime that they come around them, they take care of them, they feed them, they help make sure that they can have a place to sleep for the night, even if it's under a bridge or whatever, or be behind somewhere. They always make sure that they're in a safe area. That's what kind of communities you'll find amongst the homeless. It's a lot more in depth than a lot of people think. And ultimately, like, that's what drew me in, honestly, why I became homeless, why I really stuck to it for a while. I decided that I wanted to kind of teach myself. I wanted to figure out life. I wanted to learn really a whole lot about other people's culture, about where other people came from, why people are the way they are, because I grew up in a really broken, childhood. And there were a lot of people around me that I didn't really look up to. There were a couple people that I looked up to, but even then I still didn't want to follow in their footsteps. There were a lot of things I noticed, that people would do things like when I got bullied in school. um you know Over time I started learning why certain people did certain things, why they treated me a certain way, or why they said certain things. Like my senior year in high school, I ended up getting called sausage nips. And I found out that by that guy, that he said that he wasn't really trying to be mean to me and bully me. Like, he felt bad. He actually came and apologized to me one day, that senior year. And like, he said, honestly, I'm a nice person, I'm a good person. And he honestly just was trying to help thicken my skin a little bit, because there were so many people picking on me. And his friends, like his group of friends, were a lot of the people that were picking on me. So, like, he definitely, kind of had that bond. And I guess where I'm going with this is, you don't really want to just judge a book by its cover, you know because there's a lot more going on in people's lives than you expect. So when I went onto the streets, that was really what I did it for. I really wanted to learn why people are being the way they are in life, why they're so angry, why they're so sad, why everybody's so broken up, and the greed is there and all that. Like, I never really was somebody who fully understood, or really kind of grasped it. I was sheltered in a lot of ways, and I was told to be a lot of ways. And all these things. And I kind of kept myself enclosed in my head space. And so going out there, I learned that there's, people of all creeds, all colors, all races, all religions, all backgrounds on the streets, that there's cliques just like in high school, there's cliques just like out in the real world, whatever. But a majority of people are out there because of things that were caused in their youth. Either they were traumatized, they were beaten, they ran away from school, they ran away from their parents or whatever, didn't want to go into foster care. They went into foster care, got treated really badly, they ran away from that. Kids that their families introduced them to drugs at a young age, and therefore they got hooked to drugs because their parents were hooked to drugs, and therefore they ran away from that to try to get themselves clean. Kids that became juveniles at a young age and ended up becoming outcasted or whatever, and therefore they ended up, maybe they did something really bad as a youth and then it didn't get clean from their record, and now they can't get certain jobs or they can't do certain things or whatever, certain things that happen. And then like parents that die and whatnot. Like there's people that, they were kids and their parents died and they ended up not going to the foster care system or whatever. They ran away. They made sure that, they went off on their own. And there's a lot of people that endure that or have endured those things that are on the streets. That's a majority of why these people are on the streets, is because they have gone through really traumatic things, or they've lost their houses in a fire or COVID or a flood or whatever, and they became homeless, lost their job, whatever. And it was something that they really could not do something about. And then because of it, because of their lack of having those things, they end up in a situation in their mind. They end up in a poor situation, not the right support, not the right not the right support system or care from the people around them. So they end up resorting to violence or to drugs or something like that, because they don't know what to do, and they meet somebody who's really nice to them, who treats them well and cares about them, and like, takes them under their wing. But then at the same time, that person ends up being a drug addict or whatnot. Like that's partially why I ended up doing different drugs along the way when I was on the streets. Is I ended up becoming really good friends with people who were doing drugs, and my curiosity, wanting to learn about life, wanting to grow, I ended up doing drugs. And like I to this day, I never got addicted myself, but all the people that I saw it ruin their lives, that's why I never got addicted. I never wanted myself to go down that path, and I chose to make my life different. I ultimately, I've seen people that are really good people, get. I met this girl in San Francisco, and she went from Montreal, Canada. She was in the news, and you know she was a really sweet woman. She came down from Montreal. She had a fiance, had a family that was loving her up there. She was going to law school, and she came down to America just to learn English, just to learn some more English, because up there where she was living, like, there's not a whole lot of English speakers where she was living. And she said that it's mainly just French Canadian French. And she taught me a little, and she was hanging out with my buddy and I. And because my buddy told her, hey, it's not really that safe for you out here on these streets out in San Francisco. Like, there's some sketchy people out here. There's some dangerous things going on. You should probably go back to your hostel and go and be safe. And she ended up wandering off from him, telling him that he didn't have any right to tell her what to do or anything like that. And she was living life, and he was being too worrisome and whatnot. And 2 weeks go by. We had gone searching for her all throughout San Francisco. We went down to the wharf, went down through Golden Gate Park. We went through as all the streets that we could think of that, he had gone with her or whatever when they were hanging out. And 2 weeks later, I get a message from my mom freaking out on me saying, "Honey, I hope you're okay. I just saw this on the news." And she sent me an article saying how that girl was found dead in Golden Gate Park, and the three people that had murdered her, they were all caught up in Portland, Oregon. And one of them actually was one of the guys that I knew from a year prior in San Francisco, that he tried to steal my stuff and stuff like that, and like, completely, punk me over. And I find out that he did that a year later, and that completely,
changes how you see
it well, it it that's the kind of stuff that you go through. And for me in that moment, like, I was doing a lot of hallucinogenics. So when I found out about it, my mind was not in the right spot. And a lot of people on the streets, there's things like that happen. You find out your friend died. You find out that they overdosed. And then all of a sudden, because you're already on some sort of thing, you don't know how to get yourself off of it. You don't know where your life is. You don't know what things are going to happen to you, and you start getting all these different things. A lot of these people end up being paranoid and schizophrenic and stuff in different ways on the streets, and don't know how to find their way off of it, because they get so caught up in all the things that have happened and traumatized them while they've been there. So that's a lot of why I do this show too, because in this segment, because I want people to really understand what kind of things we go through. The first year I'm on the street, I almost got killed several times. The first year on the street, I almost, I had to protect a family I didn't even know down in California. A woman and her kids that let me and my buddies stay at her property. I had to protect her from her ex-husband or her ex-boyfriend that came on the property. Like,
well, you didn't have to.
Well, but I chose to. But I was put in that situation. Like it's. And I was 18. He was 35. So and I'd never been in a fight in my life. And he hit me in the face with a baseball bat. So like, all these things, like, there's so many things you don't realize that just even the innocent kids, like, they go through. I was an innocent kid. I had just gotten on the streets. I didn't know much of anything. I didn't know much of where I was going with life. I was just confused at that moment, because I was hanging out with people that actually finally considered me a friend, that wasn't treating me wrong. Because before hanging out with anybody on the streets, I was treated terribly. I was bullied a lot. And when I met a lot of people, a lot of homeless youth and people around my age that were homeless, they didn't care where I came from. They didn't care, what I looked like. They didn't care about any of that stuff. They just cared that I was a good person, that I was nice, that I didn't steal things from them, that I didn't lie to them, that I didn't, do anything like that. And that right there is what a lot of people don't understand. There's a lot of people out there that really just get a lot of things in life thrown at them, and they can't handle it, and they're expected to, and there's not enough support systems behind them, because so many of us are taught to just be strong, to just suck it up, to just not not go out and experience life, to be afraid of everything. And when you do that, you make kids that grow up to be people that don't know how to take care of themselves, and end up on the streets, or end up in the wrong position with addictions, or the wrong friends, or the wrong crowds, or the wrong situation, the wrong time, and the wrong moment. What were you going to say? Sorry.
Well, I mean, it always seems like people forget, everyone else who is not homeless forgets that homeless people are, in fact, people.
Exactly.
And because, like your neighbor, you give them the benefit of the doubt. You're like, oh, they got shit going on. You know, they could just be having a bad day, or you know, so their husband left them or whatever. Well, you don't know anything about the person on the street, and they're still human, and they still have human issues and human things that they go through.
Yep, I've met retired police officers that were homeless. I've met military vets that were homeless, that were actual military
There's
vets,
so
not just
many
ones
military
that were not.
veterans.
Yeah, but a lot of them are fake. A lot of them are lying about it. That is the truth. I
But there
mean,
is
when
still a
people
large
see,
majority of them that
but
are
here's the
able to
thing.
take care of
Even if
themselves
yes, but I mean,
and keep it home.
there really are. There are a lot of military vets. There are a lot of people from all different sorts. I've met people that are fabricators, steel workers, electricians,
And then there's people that are just
carpenters.
lying about being homeless in general.
Yeah, there's that too. But I mean, there's there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that do go through a lot of things that have been very very hardworking people, and you know, okay. Thank you, Osong Christian. I appreciate your input, and I feel like one way that people can really change their situation, honestly, is reaching out to the support systems that you see. I know you may not have a support system directly near you, your family, your friends, they may not be supporting you. They may not be the type of people that are like, hey, here, let me help you go out and get work from somebody I know who needs a worker now, or hey, let me help you really like kind of get yourself on that path and get you away from it. If you don't have anybody like that near to you, reach out to a local church, even if you're not religious. That's something we talked about in the past on one of our past episodes. Reach out to a church, a synagogue, a mosque, anything that is a religious temple. For the most part, if you are absolutely in need, most times they will help you,
Or point
no,
you in the
or point you in the
direction.
right direction, no matter what race, religion, creed, whatever you come from. Just because that's what they're a lot of times there for. A lot of people, they purpose their churches for their community. Um, Two, if there's a community center, if there's some place that has different brochures or anything about the uh the different um welfare needs or anything for like feeds or clothes closets or anything like that, anywhere that might have information on that stuff, that's a perfect place to go to. um
Even
a
if
lot of those
it's
a lot of those places that have clothes closets and feeds, a lot of those places have job opportunity hookups. They will have temp position opportunities that they can get you contacted with. They'll want your they'll help you get an ID. If you don't have an ID, they'll help you get your birth certificate. If you don't have a birth certificate, they'll help you get your social security card. If you don't have a social security card, if you need all those things, they'll help you figure out how to go to uh, the vital records system or anything like that, and they'll help you get all the information you need for that. So thank you, Osong, for asking that question, because that is very powerful. A lot of people don't realize that you can get those sort of services, like in Portland, Oregon, where I was originally homeless in and mostly homeless in. You can go down to one of the buildings down there, and even without getting a regular ID, you're able to get an ID that at least, if you don't have all the vital records yet to go to the DMV and get your ID, you can go and at least get a identification card that is technically official by the law there. So there you're able to actually end up going and getting a job. They'll provide a postal number and everything for you, so you can get your mail, and all of that stuff. So there's a lot of cities that do stuff like that. There's a lot of places that do that. One of my favorite places while I was homeless. If you're watching this and you know anybody who's homeless, or you've been homeless, or you are homeless, or you end up homeless, and say you end up knowing a homeless youth as well. down in San Francisco, there's the Larkin, which they have an adult center and they have a youth center. The adult center, there's a lot of stuff for, just mainly just adult stuff. The youths might sometimes have to go down there for like clothes closet sort of stuff or whatever, depending. But at the youth center, they have food, they have clothes, they have all that stuff. So if you know any homeless youth that end up in San Fran or are in San Fran, that's a good place for them to go. Everybody who works at the Larkin or is one of the volunteers, they've all somewhat gone through homelessness at some point in their life too. Amy is an amazing woman who each time I've ever been there, she was like the main administrating person there at the Larkin, and she makes sure it's like a family. Make sure that any homeless kids actually get treated like they have a family. It's beautiful. So okay, well, Osong, if say in Africa, I've never been to Africa, but I'd say if even if you don't have that stuff where you're at, honestly, the best option, even if it's scary, even if it's something that is hard to really get yourself to do, if you're in a situation somewhere where nothing is able to happen that's good for you, if you have the chance to be able to leave and find somewhere else to go and travel to, just to even look at, just to check, not to necessarily move to for officially, but to at least even go and check out, go and travel, go and see new places, because the people you will meet in those new places will give you more options in life, will give you more views on life, will give you more cultural,
even just checking with your neighbors,
opinions. And yeah, checking with your neighbors, doing anything, really reaching out to more areas that you haven't been, where you haven't checked. That that's really what's useful. If you keep staying in the same spot, that stagnation is what really causes a lot of people is, especially if they're dealing with homelessness and poverty, that stagnation is what's causing most likely the person to not be able to grow. Because if you're letting yourself be in stagnation, you're obviously you're doing something over and over and over and over, to the point of where you yourself feel like you're in stagnation. And if you feel like you're in stagnation, that's when your body starts to deteriorate. That's when your mind starts to deteriorate. That's when you start to really give up on the things that are important in life. But if you get yourself moving, if you even if you're stuck in that area, say if you're not someone who's able to easily get out of that area still, and you're still stuck in that area, start doing stuff that are skillfully constructive for you. If something is going to teach you something new and going to give you a new skill base, do it, learn it. Because that skill base ultimately will bring you money. It will bring you structure. It will bring you security, and it will bring you the ability to be valuable for others.
Well, and that's where you can go back to working it out with your neighbors. If you do any kind of work for a neighbor, and say you need food or you need clothing or anything like that, you could work out a deal with the people around you. And
Absolutely.
That's what we're all about here, is just building the community. Starting with the community you already have, and then branching out further once you see that you need more help.
Absolutely.
We are about up on time as well.
We are about up on time, so we are going to wrap it up. I do appreciate you, Osong, for engaging with us today. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
I was going to say that.
But and I appreciate everybody else that has popped in as well throughout the time. And my law of community today to share with you guys is really just, pushing yourself past those limits of stagnation. If you find yourself in stagnation, find something. Doesn't have to be extremely huge. Find something to push yourself even just a little bit further. Something new. If it's reading a new book, if it's going and building something new, if it's drawing something, if it's writing something, if it's just going outside and doing some landscaping, if it's going for a jog and you don't normally go for a jog,
Something new.
yeah. If you find yourself, in a new find a new relationship with somebody, even if if it's a friend, if you end up becoming something romantic, anything like that, just go out there and do something new. Because as soon as you do something new, that's that's the step to the next new thing. As long as you constantly change in some way, you grow. But if you don't change, you're never growing. And then really that's what a community is about, is learning to overcome the changes together. So go out there and overcome your changes, help others overcome their changes, and let's grow together, guys. And I hope you guys have a wonderful week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.